Welcome to the Den-versations podcast. Part of my goal with this channel is to platform inspiring individuals, and it's just befitting that I am today joined by Ned Dickson. Ned works as a landscape architect, but more importantly, when he was 15 years old, founded Real History Walking Tours, which does tours in Sydney and Mudgee. By his walking tours work, he's able to keep the stories of Sydney and Mudgee alive, whilst also keeping alive the powerful tool of storytelling and walking. Welcome to the Den-versations, Ned.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's go to the very start of this all. You were born and raised in Mudgee.
Yeah, Mudgee,
which
born and bred.
Is a central town. It's a town in central New South Wales.
Yeah, a little country town in the central west, about 3.5, 4 hours northwest of Sydney.
Yeah, and about 12,000 people. Could you give us an idea of what it was like to grow up in such a town and how it may have influenced you as a person?
Yeah, it was excellent. It was so good. Fantastic growing up there. You know, in a small town it was about 6,000-7,000 people when I was growing up. So It's grown quite a lot. And so it was this tiny place in the middle of nowhere. It's very well known now, but it was a little backwater in the middle of nowhere pretty much.
And could you tell when the population grew?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So I was kind of towards the end of high school when the population started to increase. But, you know, it was so good. I was surrounded by all my family and everyone knows everyone, which is good and also bad. But mostly good.
Yeah.
And, you know, you could just go all over town all day and, you know, everyone was your friend. It was really good. It was really nice.
For you starting a business at 15 in this town where everyone is in everyone's business, did that affect you? Like your psychology in any way?
It's really weird because I don't really remember the first decision of starting a business. I remember I was looking for a job at the time. My dad said, "I've got you a job picking up rocks in a paddock." And I went, I don't really want to do that. And so I thought, I've always loved history. And I thought, Mudgee's becoming quite popular. Why don't I start a walking tour to share that history? I don't really remember much about the start, though, which is really strange.
And is there any connection between Mudgee and your love for history?
Definitely.
Yes?
So Mudgee's very historic, very intact, lots of beautiful buildings, 19th century buildings. And being surrounded by that since I was born was definitely a big influence. And also a lot of family history there. My family had been there since the 1850s.
Right.
Yeah, all over the Central West. But
is this like something that is ingrained in your family culture? Like when you guys are having dinner, is there things around your house that are reminding you of?
Yeah, definitely. And my grandfather was a big influence as well. He loved history. He talked a lot about our family history and all in little towns all over the Central West. So yeah, a big influence.
Yeah. You've mentioned that you were looking for a job when you were 15 and you were offered this job, rock picking. Could you walk us through that prospect? Was this with your dad's friend?
Oh, yeah. It was just someone Dad saw down the street one day.
Okay.
That was pretty normal.
Yeah. And then you decided, well, that's not for me. Yeah. I want to do this real history walking tour.
Yeah. So I started this little tiny tour. I was 15, short little 15-year-old, covered in pimples, you know, classic.
Yeah.
And I did heaps and heaps of research. So for about 6 months, did all this research. There were a few stories that I knew, lots of kind of urban myths that, you know, when you're growing up, you hear about. So I included all of them. I befriended a few people at the Historic Society in Mudgee, and they really helped me out with a lot of research. Very excited that someone so young was so interested in local history. And then, put together this walk. I started advertising it through the local tourism board and, it kind of took off from there.
Yeah. So how big is this historical society that you first showed up to? Is it a big part of Mudgee?
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's very influential. They've got a beautiful big museum and a lot of them are pretty responsible for, you know, protecting a lot of Mudgee's buildings. They're a pretty strong force.
Yeah. So you grew up around them. And
it
was almost like an automatic second step if you were thinking about this.
Yeah, if you're thinking about doing any historic research in Mudgee, they're the people you go to.
Yeah. And then you show up here, you're 15 years old. Could you walk us through that experience?
Well, I had never made a speech. Like I didn't do any public speaking. I was really quiet, really shy. And I really liked history. And I was like, well, I've probably got to get over this fear of public speaking if I'm going to lead tours around Mudgee. And so I just threw myself in, And then I was leading groups of like 45 people around the main streets of Mudgee on a Saturday morning on my weekends. And it completely changed who I was. Like I became way more extroverted, way more confident. And then previously I avoided every public speaking thing at school. Like I just happened to be sick that day, you know.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it completely changed who I was, which is, you know, for the better, I think.
Yeah. I mean, to any normal 15-year-old, the idea that you're going to walk around and tour, it's not something that many people think about. And my next question was going to be, have you just always been extroverted? But then it turns out you weren't extroverted. So
not at all.
What was driving you at these initial stages of?
I think it was just passion.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Passion for history?
Yeah. And
Right.
Mudgee's got an incredible history.
Mm.
You know, it was this town in the middle of nowhere for a long time, very disconnected, very isolated, but amazing buildings, like incredible buildings that you don't see anywhere else in a lot of country towns where a lot of its history has been stripped away. And so, yeah, I just had a real passion for it. And, you know, my family had been there for so long. And yeah, that was a real driver. And it's also so beautiful. It's such a beautiful town.
And what did your dad think when you first told him that, okay, this is what I'm going to start doing now?
I actually don't know. I need to ask him. I need to ask mum and dad.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do this. And they're always been very supportive. And yeah.
That's amazing, actually. And anyone else, any particular individual within the History Society, for example, that you looked up to or that mentored you through this?
There were a few people who helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
One very knowledgeable man took me around the streets of Mudgee and told me all these incredible stories, which I kind of weaved into the tour. But also my tour is all of my tours are not so much about, you know, facts and dates. They're about stories. There's lots of oral history. There's lots of, you know, urban myths that we talk about that, you know, those myths are probably not true, but they still inform like an important fabric of a place.
Yes.
And so lots of, stories like that from locals are the best bits. You know, the really crazy stuff that you think, oh my God, is that really true?
And I wonder if you had decided to start this idea in Sydney, do you think it would have hit the same?
I'm not sure. Mudgee's a very nurturing environment. It is a very supportive place. Mostly. But yeah, I don't think so.
You know,
yeah.
So there's something special about Mudgee.
Yeah.
You needed to get this idea off the hook.
And all of my business is tourists. And, you know, when someone's on holidays, they're, you know, very willing and happy and, you know, and so, you know, lots of people come to Mudgee and are keen to learn, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now walk us through, you've started the Real History walking tours. You're going through a couple of tours now. Walk us through the journey from when you were 15 to when you were 18. Any key lessons that you gained over that time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heaps of key lessons. There were a few people that tried to start other walking tours. That was interesting.
Yeah. It's always a thing that happens.
They didn't last.
But it's always a thing that happens, right? You think of an idea and it seems to all of a sudden now get other people working. Were they people that you knew?
No, most of them were just blow-ins from other places.
And before you started the idea of Real History walking tours, there was no other.
The museum did tours every now and then, but there was no because I was doing tours Saturday and Sunday, and then after school as well. And so there was no one doing that.
Okay,
that regular.
Continue your story then.
Yeah. But yeah, there were. The main thing that I really learned was self-confidence, being comfortable in front of crowds. From that time, from 15 to 18, not only was I doing tours on a Saturday and Sunday and after school, I was doing like little history lectures for community groups, CWA, Lions, Rotary. I was doing school groups. So Mudgee Public School used to come on tours all the time. And when I was 18, I was also school captain of my high school. And I did like these little things on assembly talking about the school's history, which looking back is really strange. But
I mean, you're educating your peers, right? These are people your age that you're teaching. How much interest did they show in these things?
Lots.
A lot?
Because there's a lot of bizarre history in Mudgee. Like at our school, there was these old bunkers that no one knew about underneath the school oval. And so on assembly, I was kind of like, did everyone know there's bunkers underneath the school oval? And we didn't. And then you go out to the oval at recess and we're all jumping on the ground. The ground's moving and like, oh, yeah, there are bunkers there. Yeah.
And did that cause any problems with the school? No?
Oh, no, don't think so.
They're very secure bunkers.
I wasn't aware of it anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing these tours, you're
doing lots and lots. And also, you know, not only do you learn self-confidence, but I'm running a business. So I was learning all about handling money and finances and, you know, dealing with difficult customers, which, you know, there's always a few.
Yeah.
And then also dealing with, you know, different locals who, you know, see this 15-year-old kid and think, what could he possibly know? And that was something that I still get every single Saturday morning is these people turn up and they go, oh, you're very young. I'm like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. And does that affect you in any way? No?
Nah.
You've just learned to live with it, no?
Yeah, and then by the end of the tour, they mostly go, that was really good. And you go, yeah, thanks.
It's the only way to win that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And you mentioned financial education. How are you learning these things as you're going? Are you making mistakes? Are you learning any hard lessons?
No major mistakes.
Yeah. Did you have any big plans when you started? Like, did you have any, okay, this is how I'm going to work. I have this framework that I'm going to follow. Mm-hmm. Did you have any of that? Or were you just playing it by the day?
I just played it by the day.
Yeah.
I did not, you know, I expected, you know, 5 people every Saturday at $10 to $15 a head.
Yeah.
And that's what I got. And then it got bigger and bigger. And then I started to do the lectures. I did bus tours. Like I jump on a coach and go around town with, you know, 50 old people. Yeah. And they were great. I loved doing that.
And it never like got into your head or anything?
No. Which is really strange. And again, like it all happened very quickly. And I was just like, oh yeah, okay. I'll just keep doing this. This is fun. Yeah. And it's because I loved it so much. It still doesn't feel like work really.
And how did it feel being that kid around town, that this is the guy that runs these tours to the old people, to the young people?
Well,
surely it got you feeling proud, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. When I was 18, I started my own radio show in Mudgee. Yeah, so I did a radio show every Saturday morning. So that was quite fun.
Wow.
And it was on the AM station, not the FM station, so the old people station, which was great. Yeah. And so I was also part of the Mudgee Garden Club. Because I'm obsessed with gardening. So all the little old ladies that come up to me in the street and, you know, oh, I heard you on Saturday. And yeah. But yeah, I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, gardening, I feel like it's a very important part of community. I feel like my problem with big cities like Sydney, and we'll talk about them in a bit, is that you get communities that are just so big. It's almost like nobody knows anyone else.
Yeah.
You don't know who your neighbors are, et cetera, et cetera. But like, that is such a good part of it. And then you become 18, you have to now start thinking about moving out of Mudgee university.
Yeah. So I got into uni, got into UTS.
Was university always something that was on your plate? You were always like, I want to go to uni one day.
Yep. And I knew I wanted to be a landscape architect for when I was like 12, 13. And so I always knew what I was working towards because I love gardening. I'm quite creative, love designing things. So I was like, this is a perfect career for me. And yeah, it came to Sydney. Mum and Dad dropped me off in this little tiny shoebox apartment in Ultimo.
Yeah.
And yeah, my auntie lives in Sydney, my auntie and my uncle. And that's about it. A few cousins. But yeah, I didn't know anyone really. No one my age, definitely.
Coming from Mudgee to Sydney, what are your first thoughts of Sydney?
I hated it.
You hated it?
I absolutely hated it.
Right. Okay.
And I was in this really feral little apartment in Ultimo. It was just gross. And I didn't have any plants, which I'm a plant hoarder. I have a huge garden. I need my plants. And that was a year in an apartment and it really impacted me. Yeah. And now I love it. I love Sydney so much. But for about a year, I was very unsettled and I would always be driving back to Mudgee. Yeah.
And is there anything about Sydney that you felt like this is probably the worst part of it? Is it the congestion?
It was the fact that no one says hello, which I was very used to. You know, you can't walk down Mudgee's. You can't go, oh, I'm just going to quickly duck down the street because you get caught up and you hear about, you know, everyone's mother-in-law's cat, you know.
Yeah.
And like the stories you get caught up in are great.
Yeah.
and I really missed it. And yeah, walking down Broadway and saying hello to someone, they look like you've just slapped them.
And
like,
it's very packed, isn't it? Like there's just so many people.
Yeah.
I also don't think the architecture down in Broadway is that pretty, but
No. Well, no.
compared to Mudgee.
Compared to Mudgee, I mean, very, very different. Broadway's got some beautiful buildings, but yeah, it was a big change, a massive change.
And now you've been here for 1 year. You've not liked Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you then decide, well, I want to go back to doing what I was doing in Mudgee, and I'm going to try to expand into Sydney?
Over that year, I was doing lots of research into my ancestry and stuff. And
is there anything that motivated you to do that?
Well, my grandfather always spoke about it. I'm descended from 3 First Fleet convicts. So I did lots of research into them and visited their grave and went to the house that they built and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, and I always knew there's a lot of history in Sydney. And then I moved out of that horrible little apartment, moved around a few other places in that year, and then moved to Glebe. And Glebe is very historic, lots of beautiful buildings. It's got an incredible history. And I thought, well, I've still got this walking tour in Mudgee that I was employing someone to do, and I still employ someone to do now. And I was like, oh, why don't I start one in Glebe? And so I started one in Glebe, about a year after living here. Yeah.
And was it just a snap decision? Hey, I'm going to start this in Glebe.
Yeah.
And can you walk us through the preparation then?
Yeah.
What type of work did you have to put in?
So normally when I start a tour, I'll buy a book on the region, the suburb, the town, and I'll read the book, and then I'll pick out little bits that I think are quite interesting, and then I'll do extra research into those bits, whether they're people or buildings or events or anything. Mm-hmm. And then I try and piece them all together in a route, which is very difficult because not everything is close enough. And but in Glebe, I was very lucky. Like there's so much in Glebe. You can do a walking tour down every street in Glebe.
It's actually in one of my to-do lists.
Glebe's amazing. It's got such a crazy kind of fabric of history. It was one of Sydney's most disgusting suburbs at one point. And then down the other end was one of Sydney's richest suburbs. And so there was the kind of cross-section of wealth is pretty interesting. Yeah.
And is that something that you put into your tours, for example?
Yeah.
Do you walk people from one side of Glebe to the other and tell them, well,
yeah.
All right.
We go past, these little tiny houses, tiny little houses. And then we walk past a house that was once Sydney's biggest house. Yeah. Yeah.
And well, what sort of feeling does that evoke in the people that are in the tours?
Oh, people are astounded. Yeah. And also when I show the photos, because some of the photos, it looks like it's slums. They were slums. And, I tell lots of stories about how Blackwattle Bay on the edge of Glebe was one of Sydney's worst places for sharks because of all the abattoirs just throwing carcasses and the blood trickling into the water. They'd come all the way from Manly. And so it was really disgusting. And people are always amazed when you talk about that, Surrey Hills and Paddington and Glebe and Ultimo are such desirable places today that back in the day they were awful. And crazy. When I moved to Glebe 4 years ago, my nan said, oh my God, why are you going to Glebe? That's disgusting. You can do better. And I'm like, no, Nan, it's not Glebe in the 1940s anymore.
It's a very beautiful town, actually. And, what's actually funny is I had no idea about Glebe as being this historic place, because my conception of Glebe was usually Broadway and USyd and around that area. Yeah. And then I meet you and you tell me about it. I'm like, wow. And I went and find pictures about it. It's
you've got to go straight down Glebe Point Road to the point. That's where all the amazing houses and
it's a massive place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge suburb. Yeah.
But we'll come back to suburbs in a bit. Let's talk about balance. Mm-hmm. You've managed to manage the business from when you were 15 in high school through your HSC. Yeah. Then you've come to university. You've still been able to manage this business. How does that work for you?
Well, I'm not very good at relaxing, which is an issue. It's becoming an issue. But I just like doing things, and I make myself feel really guilty if I don't do things. But it's good because it drives me. And so, after school, I would come home and do all my admin, do all my bookings and things.
How long does that take?
Oh, well, when I was in Mudgee, when I was at school, it wouldn't take that long. the tourist office would manage my bookings, and they would just let me know, and then I would record them, and then, I'd do the tour, and then I'd send out all the emails about, leave me a review, that kind of thing. And then I was sorting out different advertising things and dropping flyers off and all that kind of stuff, which I still do.
You were walking around just giving people flyers?
Yep.
Wow.
Putting posters up. But it was good because I had my radio show. I was involved in a lot of different community organizations, and it's Mudgee, so everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
And so, there's lots of Airbnbs that I knew people that own the Airbnbs, so they would recommend me, and they still do. But and then coming to Sydney and going to uni, managing that workload with uni was actually really good because uni hours are so flexible.
Mm.
And so I'd have a class one morning, and they can go and do a tour in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah. And when you moved to Sydney, you had to obviously change your model for advertising.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You couldn't do the posters anymore because Sydney's just so big.
Yeah.
So walk us through.
Yeah. So the advertising in Sydney is something I've only really worked out in the last year. Like I did City of Sydney, like What's On has always been really good. Still handing out flyers and using different websites like TripAdvisor and Viator and Get Your Guide and stuff like that have all been really good.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing is Instagram. And so only at the start of this year, I started posting videos on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that has completely changed the whole business.
Are you getting people stopping you down the road yet?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's happened a few times. Yeah.
How did that
Kidman.
feel? How did that feel? I mean, you're probably used to it coming from Mudgee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very strange, and I never expected to be, I mean, it's only happened 4 times. I'm not. But
still happened.
It still happened. I did a video in Newtown. Newtown's very tight-knit. And most of them have happened in Newtown.
Yeah.
This video that I did quite well. And I've been recognised by a few people on the streets there.
And I mean, you should be. I think you're doing quite a good job.
Oh, thank you.
But I think one of the interesting things that I realize here is the people you have on your walks. What age group do they fall into mostly?
Every tour is different.
Yeah.
So the Mudgee tour is very much kind of middle-aged people to retirees because there's lots of people travelling around or around New South Wales, and they stop in Mudgee. Lots of people going on wine tours, get lots of like hens parties, and they're all absolutely plastered by the time they get to the tour. So that's interesting. And then Glebe is very much locals.
Yeah.
Like lots of people from the inner west, they come to Glebe. Because, they go to the markets and they do a bit of shopping and they do a tour.
And then they do, nice, yeah.
Watson's Bay is very touristy, lots of international tourists because Watson's Bay is such a destination. Like you go there, you get the ferry, you have lunch, you do a tour.
Yeah, right.
And the CBD tour, so I've got 2 tours in the CBD, and they are basically all international tourists.
Mostly internationals.
Yeah.
But then the people who watch your videos on social media,
yeah.
Do you know the statistics on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, most of them are from Australia, lots from Sydney, lots from Melbourne, quite a few from Brisbane.
Yeah.
And then the next big demographic is people from New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Yep. And then people from the UK, lots of people from the US.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically the main ones.
And I mean, walking tours are not a thing that I would have thought about when I was growing up. And before I met you, actually, before I found out about your channel, it wasn't a thing that I considered doing. So how do you convince young people to get out, walk, have a guide?
I think it's just realizing what's actually around you. So many people, I mean, it's not just young people, any people, walk up and down these streets, on their way to work every single day and don't realize what they're walking over. And that's something that I'm really passionate about sharing.
Yeah.
And
so the stories.
Yeah, definitely. And in Australia, I think, as compared to places in Europe, Australians don't really have not necessarily a strong grasp of history, but they don't really, no locals are going to go and do a walking tour that regularly.
Yeah.
Because there aren't that many walking tours, and that's just not really ingrained in our culture. Whereas overseas, if a particular European person is going to go to another country in Europe, they're going to do a walking tour. And so I think it's sharing stories of places people are familiar with. People always love stories about tunnels, and there's so many tunnels in Sydney. And so it's really interesting, like hidden history, unveiling hidden history is how I've got, especially young people interested. Yeah.
Have you heard about the fact that they're planning apparently to open up the St. James Tunnel?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
You could build another Sydney in those tunnels. There's tunnels everywhere.
So they're very big.
Lots of them are quite big.
Yeah.
There's so many. Like, I spoke to a lady who she was growing up in Sydney in the 60s, and she said she grew up in Paddington, and her friends used to walk to Circular Quay, and sometimes if they wanted a bit of an adventure, they'd just walk through the tunnels until they got to Circular Quay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So are these just open tunnels? What are they for?
They would have been open then. They're not open anymore.
Yeah.
But lots of them were access tunnels. There were tunnels that were built quite early on to evacuate people out of Sydney, especially from the old barracks at Wynyard. There were tunnels apparently there that could take you down to Circular Quay. And then, there was tunnels between banks so they could transfer money underground. And Sydney's great for tunnels because it's sandstone, so it's all self-supporting.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And so you can build tunnels everywhere.
Interesting. And what's the need for evacuating things?
Well, Sydney was very vulnerable. Sydney was a colonial outpost in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And especially when the French were settling in New Caledonia, when there was lots of stuff going on in the Pacific, Sydney was seen as a bit of a target. And so that's when lots of our fortifications were built around North and South Head. But even before then, Sydney had to be defended in case it was ever attacked.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting stories, eh? I want to come back to this, the art of storytelling and the art of tour guiding, right?
Mm-hmm.
You obviously have somebody that you've hired, and I'm sure you have skills that you look out for. What personality traits do you feel are important for one to be successful as a tour guide?
That's a great question. I'm actually looking for someone to hire right now, so I'm on the lookout.
If anyone wants to apply.
Yeah. Well, you've got to be quite extroverted. You have to be good at talking, but you also have to have a passion.
Yeah.
There's lots of different personality traits that would suit a tour guide, but it's all about passion, really. And anyone can come and learn the script that I do and do the tour and be really personable and be fantastic. But you've got to have a passion for history because you're going to be asked questions about why to Sydney. You're not going to be asked, all the questions that are just about the buildings that are on the tour. And so I think passion is very, very important. And you've got to be pretty resilient because, you get lots of different people on tours. You've got to be able to really set the scene. Tours are all about context. Some people do walking tours where there's no context given and you don't really the whole tour, you're trying to piece these things together and make sense of it.
Yeah.
Whereas my tours, I think context is really important, especially Indigenous context and especially Indigenous history as well as European history.
Yeah. And I mean, it's quite extensive, isn't it? There's a lot to learn there. There's also the delivery that you also have to be able to put in and be able to engage people whilst also telling them things that are not. Is that something that ever bothers you? Whenever you have to tell us a sad story or a dark part of history? Or are people always perceptive to it?
I wouldn't say it bothers me. I just think it's really important.
Yeah.
Like Australia's got an awful history in the early days. And it's just really important to tell those stories. Some of those stories aren't mine to tell because I'm not Indigenous, so you've got to be quite careful there. But on the whole, I think it's quite important to remind people that this is our history. Yeah. And
is there something about the city? Are there any clues that you use? Let's say you're walking on a tour, engravings, for example. Are there checkpoints where you stop people and say, well, this is where I have to remind people about this?
Topography is a good checkpoint. Yeah. So when we're walking through Martin Place, if you're standing at George Street and you're looking up at Macquarie Street through Martin Place, it's quite a drastic level change. And that's because the river still flows underneath Sydney, just outside the window there.
So it's still going.
Yeah, the tank stream still flows through there. Yeah. And that would have been a really important freshwater source for the Gadigal people for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good little checkpoint to remind people that it's still there. It's just covered up.
Yeah. And so when you're taking people down there, you can still remind them of these important things.
I mean, Sydney, is very, urban, but they're all still there.
Yeah.
All those clues that have been cared for thousands of years, they're still there.
Nice. Beautiful
Mostly.
response. That was a very good response. What's your favorite part in Sydney?
Oh, it's like asking who's your favorite child. I love walking down Macquarie Street.
Macquarie Street, right.
Out of all the streets in Sydney CBD, Macquarie Street I think is the most interesting.
Okay.
Because you've got a lot of buildings that aren't there anymore, like where you've got the gates to the Botanic Gardens used to be a building called Garden Palace. Well worth a search on Google. It's the most incredible building. Big glass greenhouse, basically.
Yeah.
It was huge, like the size of the QVB or bigger.
Right.
It's massive. And it burnt down after only 3 years of operating.
When did it exist?
It was built in 1879. It burnt down in 1882.
Right.
Under very suspicious circumstances.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I love Macquarie Street because you've got, forgotten histories like that. You've got Parliament House, which has the most crazy history. It used to be was known as the Rum Hospital. And, people used to get their legs cut off and stuff next to people who were giving birth. And it was absolutely awful sanitary conditions. It was known as a really, really bad hospital. And now it's our Parliament House, our head of government in New South Wales. You've got the Mint, which used to be part of that one hospital. And then you've got Hyde Park Barracks, this beautiful building that you saw the most horrific punishment, like lashings and things in the courtyard out the front that the nurses in the hospital next door used to have to come over and stitch all the convicts up in the front yard there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you end up in Hyde Park, which is beautiful, but used to be a swamp. It was never, flat ground. It was this beautiful, cared for swamp that was full of, beautiful fresh water and fish and all sorts of things that fed that river that still flows underneath Sydney.
Right.
And so there's the story of Australia is kind of on that street, colonial history, Aboriginal history,
right,
forgotten history. Yeah.
And so there's obviously a clear pattern of the type of things you enjoy here. The architecture is very clear. You like a bit of that old type of architecture.
And I'm a landscape architect, so I'm constantly looking at the landscape.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think like the old waterways and things like that are really interesting.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, and I mean, tie this slightly to your perception of what makes a good city a good city. So nature, the architecture needs to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
History.
Yeah, I think nature's a big thing. Yeah. Like there's beautiful planned cities like Adelaide that are surrounded in parklands. Like that's fantastic. You need a balance. You need a balance of nature. And I think Sydney's quite good at that. And we also we're in such a beautiful setting. Yeah. I think like interest in the landscape is really important. We've got these, it's quite hilly. There's lots of valleys, beautiful sandstone escarpments. We've got the most beautiful harbour in the world, I think. So I think all that's important. And I think, the people make a city. Yeah. And people who are passionate about their past, I think, make an even more interesting city because they're kind of connected to the past and therefore connected to the present. And
how do you keep that connection going? How do you get people passionate about a city?
Education. Yeah. Walking tours.
Yeah, exactly.
I think everyone should know, who used to live in their house, for example, or, why their street is called that particular name, because it makes you more connected to that place and more respectful to people that went before us. And
that's why for me, I think places like, and a lot of my friends are going to find a problem with this. I think places like Zetland, for example, where there's all these high-rise apartments.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that is particularly beautiful for me because...
No, you won't catch me living in Marston Park.
There's just no connection, right?
No.
It's like if there's a terrace, for example, Surrey Hills, Glebe, there's more connection because it's just smaller. You can almost make a connection to who lives there. What are your thoughts on the Opera House?
Oh, the Opera House is stunning.
Yeah?
Yeah. We are so lucky to have the Opera House. Yeah, it's modern architecture. I appreciate all architecture. Yeah. But it is just perfect. You could not have designed a more perfect building for that spot.
And what do you think makes it beautiful? Is it the engineering?
Definitely.
Yeah.
all the form, like curves are so important. Those buildings with really hard straight lines have their place, but in a spot like Bennelong Point on Sydney Harbour with all those undulating inlets and bays, a really straight, weird-looking building would look terrible. And it's so perfectly designed. It, shimmers in the light. All of those curves are a nice nod to the Harbour Bridge in its background. Yeah, it's perfect. And if you saw the other buildings that could have been built there, yeah, it's the best
lucky
one.
that this is
it's the best one.
What about, this is my favorite building in Sydney, actually. The cathedral, St. Mary's Cathedral.
Oh, yeah?
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's stunning.
Yeah. I like this idea of transcendence in architecture. So I like the fact that you can transcend just simple things to make people almost reflective.
Yeah.
I like that type of architecture.
And St. Mary's is quite interesting because it was actually only finished in 2000. A lot of people see it as, a really, really old building, but it was finished by helicopters placing its spires down in 2000. So it hasn't been finished for that long.
That's interesting. I thought it was something that's been there for almost 100 years.
Started in the 1820s and finished in 2000.
Wow. Wow. I mean, it's
beautiful
that people were using it and it hasn't finished yet. Yeah. It's really hard to even tell. Okay. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm almost finished. My last question. What is it that you're most excited about with relations to Australian landscape, with relation to Australian culture and Australia as a whole?
I think in terms of landscape and in terms of what I do as a tour guide, as an appreciator of landscapes, as a landscape architect, there's a real move to appreciate our backyard, and not only our little physical backyard, the little square bit at the back of our house, but our bushland.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't evident in all places. There's definitely a lot of deforestation and things like that going on, but I think there's definitely a real appreciation for having a little patch of green, growing things. Yeah. And as people have to move into these smaller places, as land becomes more of a commodity and more expensive, there's lots of different ways that people have to kind of reinvent their garden, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah.
We've got vertical gardens and different balconies, and people have got to learn about different species of plants that will thrive in those little microclimates. And there's even more microclimates coming with all of these smaller spaces. And so I think that's quite exciting. And in terms of walking tours, I mean, my hope is to keep doing what I'm doing, keep educating people, and people will know more about their own backyard. Yeah, and you'll keep growing it on Instagram. Yeah, hopefully. Thank you very much. That's a very good place to end the interview. Thank you very much for coming, and please be back. Thank you.